Hey, hi, and howdy, sweet friends. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you're new. My name is Courtney. I am a stay-at-home homeschooling mom. My YouTube channel is all about food and kitchen content, and if you are watching this video, you are about to go on episode 2 of my food preservation journey with me. This week, I am canning something called honey oranges, and I was super excited to do this. It just, from the moment I saw it, just really appealed to me. I love oranges. I love a bright burst of citrus flavor. If you are a longtime viewer of my channel, I'm sure you notice I do cook with a lot of lemon and a lot of lime. So I really am a fan of citrus. And the idea of having this honey orange, condiment on my shelf just really appealed to me because there's a million ways to use it. Oranges are one of those great things that can lend themselves to either sweet or savory cooking. And so I am so excited to have these to, maybe pour over some waffles or over some crepes, but at the same time, dump them on top of some chicken that I've roasted in my oven, maybe some skin on chicken thighs that are nice and crispy, and then let them just caramelize in this honey orange deliciousness. So I started off with my oranges. I did wash the outside and then I rubbed them down with vinegar just because I know fruit sometimes has like a really weird waxy coating on it. And because we're going to be eating the rind and all, I wanted to make sure that they were completely clean. Then I started slicing my oranges and I sliced them into rounds and then I cut them into smaller segments. Now you can use any kind of orange that you want to. I personally think like if you could get the little cutie oranges, those would probably be the best. But I got just some other oranges and I can't remember what they were called. They were on sale at a grocery store one day. I got 6 pounds of them for, I want to say $2 or $3 a pound. It was a really good deal. Now, if your oranges have seeds, make sure you remove the seeds. Like I said, we're going to eat the rind and all, but we do want to go ahead and get the seeds out of these oranges. So 6 pounds of oranges did actually take me a while to go all the way through with chopping. And I am going to go ahead and save the rinds and all the leftover bits, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that in a minute. So now I've got my pot on the stove and I'm going to go ahead and start making the syrup that these are going to simmer in for a little while. I think you could actually do this without simmering them in the syrup. I think you could just boil the oranges for a while and then make your syrup separately and add the oranges into that if you wanted to. I watched a couple of different videos with different ingredients and different methods, and I'm just kind of going with this. The only thing that I felt really bound by when it came to this recipe was the amount of time that I water bath canned the oranges. All right, so I've got this huge pot of oranges now, and I'm gonna add in honey. If I can use honey, I would rather use honey. In my brain, I find it to be a bit more of a natural sweetener, so I feel like it might be a little healthier at the end of the day than using straight sugar. This recipe does call for a little bit of both, but the majority of it is honey. And I'm gonna tell you, honey has an amazing flavor and it just blends beautifully with oranges. So it does call for a lot. I buy my honey at Sam's Club. I do like to get some local honey separately from this. That we don't ever cook, we just use it raw. It's supposed to help you kind of, if you have a lot of allergies, get over some of those allergies or they won't be as bad. But otherwise, as far as cooking goes, I buy my honey at Sam's Club. All right, so to the pot, I have added some cloves. I broke up a couple of cinnamon sticks. We're going to be pulling those out later. And then I threw in some allspice. If you have a spice bag or something that you can put these in, even better. I just made peace with the fact that I was going to be pulling them out later, and I was fine with that. I pulled a lot of them out as I was getting ready to fill my jars, and the last few that are in there look really pretty in the jar, and I'll pull them out whenever I serve these. The cinnamon sticks were a lot easier to pull out, obviously. So once I had the sugar and the honey and all my spices in there, I added some more water to cover the oranges, and then we're just going to simmer this. And we're going to let it simmer for quite a while. One thing I did forget was lemon juice, so I did come back to toss in my lemon juice. A lot of canning recipes call for this, and I'm not sure the science behind it, but I feel like there's an important reason for it, so I didn't want to skip that step. I'll get this all mixed up, and the simmering process probably took me about 30 to 40 minutes. You want to cook them all the way through and get the rind nice and soft before we move on to putting them in the jar, and that is exactly what I did. Now, I know the rind can be bitter if you're not careful on citrus fruit, but after simmering it this way and softening it, and then having all this syrup that we've made essentially that it's going to sit in, it becomes beautiful. I did taste this as I was putting it in my jars, and y'all, oh my gosh, it's magical. It's so amazing. So this is cooked down considerably. You can see my pot's less full than it was before, and I've got my ladle. I've got my whole setup. My jars have been completely sterilized because we're water bath canning. and I'm just going to start filling them. The recipe said 1 inch of headspace, so I just carefully went through and scooped a bunch of oranges in each one, trying to get to about the 1 inch headspace mark. I mean, I'm not measuring it, I'm not exact, but I'm trying to be pretty darn close on it. And then I'm going to make sure that I get a decent amount of syrup in each one of these jars. Now, I'm not going to fill it with the syrup, but I am going to make sure that there is plenty of liquid for them to sit in each jar. So as I fill them, I'm getting a lot of oranges, and I'll go back in a little bit and I'll top them off with some of the syrup at the very bottom of the pot once I've got these all done. I am using these really tiny jelly jars. I think they're half pints, because in my household, while we enjoy a good PB&J, or I would put this on top of chicken or something, it's not something that we would reach for on a daily basis. So I wanted to make sure that I made it in small enough serving sizes that none of it would go to waste when I open a jar. 1 jar will be perfect for me making some orange glazed chicken, or 1 jar would be perfect for my whole family to have this poured over homemade waffles or crepes. That way none of it would be wasted. One of my big pet peeves is sometimes you have to buy things in bigger jars, and sometimes it's just too much for us to go through. Now, grape jelly in my household never goes to waste. That's the one thing all of my people can agree on, is grape jelly. That's the only jam or jelly that I don't mind in large quantities, just because I know it will get eaten. But otherwise, I try to get the strawberry that I prefer in the smallest jars possible, because I'm going to be almost the only one eating it, except for my husband, who will occasionally partake. So I just went with these smaller jars just to avoid future waste. Now, I did have to finish sterilizing a few more jars. I did just that, and this was all the half pint jars I had in my house, so I got very lucky that I made these fit the way that they did. I do need to work on having a really good stash of jars in my home. I'm still kind of at the initial investment phase of learning to can, so I have a few extra things of jars, but not a lot. Once I got all the oranges and all that beautiful syrup in the jars, I went through with my debubbler, and I'm really just poking and mixing to make sure I'm getting all of those air bubbles out of there. I'm not sure the science behind this either, but I do think it has something to do with, if there's too much air trapped in the jar, it can lead to botulism, but I'm not 100% on that science. If you are, you can let me know down below in the comments. Anyway, I just made sure I went around the edges and through the middle, because this is large chunks of stuff. It would be very easy for air bubbles to get trapped anywhere within the jar. So I'm making sure to do my best to get every single one of those out. And as you can see, I have plenty of syrup in there, but they're not just completely soupy in syrup, and that's kind of how I envisioned it. This does get thick and sticky and syrupy, and I just didn't want a whole jar of just the liquid. Now that I've got all the air bubbles out, I've got a paper towel and some vinegar. I like to wipe my rims with vinegar just because no matter if I'm using something sticky or something greasy, I know the vinegar is going to really get the rim of the jar clean, and that's what I want to make sure to do, because as long as your rim is clean, you'll have a really good seal on your jars, and that, of course, is the final goal. We want these to seal really, really well. I've also sterilized my rims and my lids there, and I'm just going to carefully place these on top, and then you just screw the rings on to finger tight. You want to make sure that they're on securely enough to hold the lid in place, but also, there can be a little bit of give to them, because that's how the air bubbles are going to get pushed out during the boiling process of these. So essentially, when you water bath can, you're heating this up. All the stuff inside of the jar is going to boil. It's going to create steam and everything, and that's going to push all the air out, form a suction, and seal this jar with the sticky stuff on the inside of the lid there. So we want to make sure that the bands are tight enough to hold the lid in place, but loose enough that the air can still kind of get out for the canning process. I just went ahead and got all of these finger tight, and then I've got my big water bath canner going on the stove. This bad boy takes a while to heat up because it is pretty good sized, so I had started it quite a while before I started canning, so that it would be boiling and I'd be able to sterilize the jars and then just go straight to the canning process. I made sure that I put the orange mixture in the jars while it was still very hot, so that the jars could go straight into the hot boiling water. Now, if you're canning something that's cold, you have to put it in cold water. If you're canning something that's hot, you can put it in hot water. If you do the opposite of that, then you might shatter your glass. All right, so I told you we were going to do something with the leftover bits of oranges. So I've got all the rinds and peels there. I had saved them in a bowl, and I'm going to go ahead and place them inside of these 2 large quart jars, and we're going to make homemade cleaner. I've seen a lot of people do this. It's not something I'd done before, but I had wanted to give it a shot, so I thought this was the perfect opportunity because I had all of these peels. So I'm just going to get some plain white vinegar and pour it up to the top of the jar. And I'm going to give this a nice little shake so that the vinegar kind of goes all around all the pieces of orange and stuff like that and gets everybody completely soaking. And so what's going to happen is all the orange oil is going to seep out into the vinegar. Orange oil has a lot of cleaning properties just like vinegar does. They're natural cleaners. And the orange oil is also going to really make it smell nice. Vinegar kind of has that harsh scent, and the orange oil will mostly cover that up. Just let it sit in your pantry or your cabinet for like 3 weeks. And here's the finished result of these oranges. I think they are absolutely stunning. I think they look beautiful on my food storage shelf, and I cannot wait to dive in. I've not gotten to use them yet, but I will be in the very near future, and I hope you guys will be here to see the video when I do. Just look at that beautiful, vibrant color. This is not a color I often see in my food storage room, so I really enjoy having these on the shelf. Anyway, this was my adventure with honey oranges. I'm super excited about it. Next up, we will be canning chicken, and that video will probably be coming in the next 2 weeks, so stick around for that one. Hope to see you there. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you soon. Have a great one. Bye.